good? Yeah? Excellent. Thanks for coming out.
My goodness. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
We'll try again. Good morning.
Woo!
I was just telling Maurice about Saturday in Santa Cruz, which...
You have a political rally every week. This
Yes.
is amazing.
we closed the streets off just for him.
What a socially conscious city. This is great. We'll get the MoveOn.org people to move on in here and learn something about comedy and humor and cartoons and all that kind of
All that great stuff.
Yeah.
A beautiful day in Santa Cruz. We know we usually are out doing our Santa Cruz type things, which is walking or biking or sleeping in. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. Let you all know that the Cinema 9 has donated the use of this theater for this morning's event. So how about a hand for Cinema 9? This event is tied to a fundraiser for a local surfer, Levi Castro, who in 1999 was surfing, had an accident, broke his neck, and left him quadriplegic. So we're going to talk a little bit about how did this day event come to be? How did a guy who makes his living in Los Angeles end up in Santa Cruz for this day? But before we get to that part, I just thought I would ask Maurice, what are we going to do today, Maurice?
The same thing we do every day, Joe. Try to take over Santa Cruz and raise money for Levi Castro. Yes, and then take over the world.
And I didn't coach him on that either.
No, I do that when my son says, so Dad, what we can do now? As soon as he sees the eyebrow arch, he goes, oh, Christ.
Here we go. Can you imagine living with this? It's one for us. I mean, he's a star to us, and his kid. Oh,
No, at home,
dad,
I'm a knucklehead.
Yeah.
I'm that lame guy, you know.
So, I have some questions. We haven't prepared this at all. And I
What's your name again?
Me? I'm the guy that, oh boy, we got a story to tell you. So, first of all, I would like to ask you, as a child, we all hear stories about guys like Robin Williams, who must have been the craziest guy in the classroom. The teacher never thought he'd amount to anything, whatever.
Fantastic, wonderful.
Tell me about your childhood, and were you the class cut up? Were you the guy that kept everybody in stitches? Were you a good student? Tell me about this.
No, I was, you know, back in the day when I was in school, which is the mid-1960s, I don't think they put the initials A, D, and D together. So they just called it, Maurice seems to want a lot of attention. Maurice seems to stare out the window a lot. You know, that was me. So I was that kid, but I was the kid that, if I was fascinated by it, I zeroed in on it. And what fascinated me was cartoons. I loved cartoons, and I used to go to school. I used to walk to school just parroting whatever I'd seen on my local show was Rocket Ship 7, which, quick side note, Rocket Ship 7 was hosted by a man named Dave Thomas, whose real name was, who went on to Philadelphia News and became Dave Roberts, was actually featured in Rocky 2. But his real last name was David Boreanaz, and he has a son, David Boreanaz Jr., who's on Bones and who was Angel, and I got a chance to talk to him at the Emmys this year. But anyway, I used to watch this show, local show, see all the cartoons and walk to school going, which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? Hey, Bonnie, Wilma's not gonna like this, but the hell with it. You know, and I would just parrot these things, walking along for my friends, and they'd look at me a little strange, because when you're 6, that's strange behavior, you know.
Not in this town, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, exactly. But in Toronto in the mid-1960s, before the proliferation of internet and you know, YouTube, where everybody's got 1,000 impressions in 2 minutes kind of video up, it was a little unusual, and they were a little worried about me, I have to say. So I saw a lot of school psychologists. And then in high school I discovered Variety Night, and this was for me sort of where I found my mark, because I was this kind of lost kid with terrible marks and did a lot of goofy things. And then high school Variety Night, I went, my friend Steve Barton wrote me a little 3-minute stand-up comedy act, the Celebrities as Waiters, which actually survived up until I retired from stand-up comedy with a lot of tweaking and updating. And I got a standing ovation. And I went, well, this is what I got to do. This is the one thing that I've done right. So I got a standing ovation for this little 3-minute stand-up act in a high school variety show, and I said, this is the path I'm on. And that was really, you know.
So do one of those.
I think, by the way, that is the secret of life. Find the one thing you really, really love to do, the one thing you will become good at it, and go in the direction of that. And that's why I don't worry about, any kid that's got ADD. Well, then what does he focus in on? Do that. Okay, he's good. He's great with the guitar. Do that. Great. He's great at building stuff. Let him become that. But don't, put him in a box. So that's it. So what?
I was gonna say. So do one of your celebrity waiters.
Celebrity waiters.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's been almost 20 years since I did stand up.
Good.
Let's see. Okay. Does anybody here remember Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
Never. No.
Good evening and welcome to Chateau, Maine. I'm your waiter, Johnny Carson. The specialty of the house is smoked salmonella. That was the beginning of that.
All right. Okay, before we go, you got something else?
No.
Okay.
No, that's it.
I told you I wanted to tell you how this morning happened. Okay, so it turns out that you have a friend who's a member of the Castro family.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Jamie Black, her singer name. Jamie Black is a very dear friend of mine, and she's here today. And I know she hates attention, but there she is, that lovely lady there waving by. I'm going to kill you later. Jamie Black and I met years and years ago when she was in her struggling waitress years in Los Angeles, and we just became very, very good friends. And I followed her music career, and we've hung out, and we're just really dear friends. And I've known the story of Levi since I met her. So, Comic-Con last year, and Joe and I have had this ongoing Comic-Con bromance, where I met him.
I'm going to get to that part of the story
Yeah.
in a minute. So you met Jamie.
Yeah.
Initially, how?
Well, Jamie just used to wait on me over at this great little place called the Vienna Cafe. And, we'd just get to talking. And for some reason, I just became like a favored customer. And, she's just a great woman.
Dirty old man is what he is.
Really. Watch it. This is strictly platonic.
Okay.
So, anyway, and I got to learn the story of Levi and her brother and his surfing accident as we went along. And she's always said to me, it's tough, and I want to do more, and they would talk. She would tell me about all the expenses of Levi's life, and anyway, so we jumpstart too.
So here's a man with a big heart. Now, I have been attending San Diego Con in my professional capacity for a number of years, and back I think around 6-7 years ago. One of my favorite things to do is attend a panel of cartoon voice actors, of which Maurice was one of those people up there, and the moderator would introduce them, tell the audience some of the work they had done, and then ask them questions. They would read a cartoon script, a lot of entertainment for the only 45 minutes that you're in the room. But 2 or 3 years in a row, I was struck by the heart that this man had. With all these talented people on the dais, he seemed to be the one that was the most engaging, and they used to take questions from the audience. So I worked up the guts once, and I said, I asked the panel at large, I said, have any of you ever called a friend and played a practical joke on them? Because if I could do voices, that's what I would do. And they all said, no, except this guy. Now, do you remember that?
Remember, but I don't remember what was
I'm going to tell you what it was.
Stephen First?
No, you called a friend and pretended to be Johnny Carson.
Right, Stephen First.
Yeah, Stephen First. So tell the story. Go ahead.